Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our next webinar for English teachers. My name is Luiza Vaga, and I represent EduNation and EduNation Global. I hope that you know what kind of organization and community EduNation and EduNation Global is, but if you are here for the first time, let me introduce us just very, very, very briefly, because I know that you came here for merit rather than extended introduction. So EduNation has existed and has been functioning in the field of teacher training for the last 7.5 years. This year will mark our 8th birthday, and we're extremely happy about that. And we are a community of teachers based in Poland. So we're quite well known in Poland, but now for the last couple of years, we have been offering teacher training, free webinars, free teacher training services, and different courses and conferences for English-speaking teachers around the world. And we have a lot of colleagues and friends right now in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Romania, in Croatia, in India, in the United States, Canada, the UK, and so on. So a lot of people joining us around the world. So please be so kind and say hi in the comment section. I will be looking a little bit at the comment section, but there is my colleague. We always call our backstage colleagues our elves. So there is an elf today, and if you could, now I'm addressing the elf, if you could please say hi to all of us to see that you are really, really there. And when I start my the bulk of my webinar, the content itself for which you came and joined us, I will stop that much looking at the comment section, because I need to focus on what I need to say, and then all the questions and all the comments will be handled by our elf, who you have already seen in the comment section. Okay, so organizationally, the house rules, our webinars always take no longer than 60 minutes. So we're trying to finish before 10 o'clock p.m. Polish time. And tomorrow, just after probably around midday, more or less, and I all the time mean CET, Central European Time, you can expect a certificate of attendance and a recording of this webinar in your email account. Please beware that our emails quite often end up in your spam folders or offers in Gmail. So if you think that our email should have already reached you, I mean, that's tomorrow, then before asking us what happened, where's my email, where's my certificate, please first of all check if we are not waiting for you in your spam or in your offers. And I told you about this, I told you about the time, I told you about our wonderful elf, I'm sorry, I wanted to join the word elf and help, and the result was elf. So I told you about our elf, and the last thing is we always ask you very, very, very kindly to participate in the comments, to ask questions, to comment, to answer these questions, to interact with each other, but always to remember the golden rule, which is speak to other people as you would like to be spoken to yourself. And this rule always helps us to keep the quality of our chat interaction on the highest possible level. And this is my big request to you today as well. And that finishes my organizational house rule intro. Just about myself, as I said, and as you can see, My name is Luiza Wójtowicz-Waga. I'm an English teacher by profession, and I teach English every single day. I also focus very, very much on teacher training and on teacher mentoring, academic mentoring, and school ownership mentoring as well. So I do quite a lot of different things professionally, but my heart is in the classroom. And today we will be focusing on a topic that I love very, very, very much. And the topic concerns the teacher choices, such teacher choices that enhance students' memory. And why am I going to be talking about that? This, the topic of our today's webinar is Forget-Me-Nots. So on the one hand, name of a very, very nice flower. We're entering spring. Today is the first day of spring, so flowers will bloom very soon, and I'm very happy about that. But also the word which means, and the expression which means, for me, always reminds me of when I look at the script of my lesson. Have I, planning my lesson, having this script, have I planned such order of exercises and such character of exercises that will help my students remember better? Am I giving my students a chance to remember more and to remember better? And I very much believe that teachers should get more and more education and development in these aspects of teaching, because I don't know about your education and the universities and colleges that you graduated from. I graduated from the University of Warsaw, Applied Linguistics, well, many years ago. And I had a lot of semesters of didactic theory and practice, but I can't remember one single lesson or lecture in which me, a teacher to be, would be taught about mnemotechniques, about rules of how our brain works, how we remember, what kind of tricks a teacher can apply so that in order to give a student a better chance to remember. And it's a fascinating topic, fascinating, absolutely. And this is what is the behind my today's webinar. I generally think that by making good choices and not complicated intellectually choices, not something that you really need to study very much for hours and hours on end, but by making intellectual choices, logical choices, and also a bit educated choices, of course, you give your students a better chance to remember, to learn efficiently, and so on. And this is the key of today's webinar. But before we start, I would like you to learn something about me, and not because I want you to know about me so much, but I would like you to be able to later on remember a little bit about me and about my my life, but also through the through some mechanisms that I will show you. So you will remember something, and then we will draw conclusions why you remembered it more than something else. Okay, so what I would like you to learn a little bit about me is focusing very much on that photo. And in this photo, you see me doing something. What does this photo say about me? If you could be so kind and write a couple of suggestions what this photo says about me. This is a photo which presents my absolutely favorite type of spending time, which is cycling outside, outdoor cycling. And please remember outdoor and cycling. Now, the second photo that you see also says a lot about me. What does it say about me? What do you think? I will look at some of the comments. But while they are coming, while they are flying in, I will tell you that I like cooking very much. It is one of my most favorite activities. But as you can see, this book is a book in English, and it looks like a book for children. My younger son, whose name is Franek in Polish, Frank in English, he loves cooking himself too. So we are learning together, and I teach him a little bit, but we also learn together how to be better cooks and better chefs, I hope. So that's this is something about me cooking, but also cooking together with my child, with my younger son. And the third photo, what do you think about that? What does it say about me? It shows southern Poland, southwest of Poland, I would say. This photo shows my favorite part of Poland, which is Lower Silesia, and my favorite type of spending just after, right after outdoor cycling, my favorite type of spending holidays, which is hiking. So you know quite a lot about me right now. And I told you this not because, I mean, it's always nice to know something about the person who runs a webinar for you, but I did this in a very specific way. And then throughout this webinar, I will be asking you how much you remember. So please beware and be ready to answer later on. So this was for a reason. Now I'm going to tell you a story about two figures that you, I'm sure, know from mythology. The man on the left is the most powerful god in mythology, namely Zeus. And the woman on the right, probably the man on the left you recognized quite quickly. The woman on the right, or the goddess rather, on the right, is not so easy to recognize unless you are an expert in mythology. She is the goddess of memory, and her name is, in Polish we say mnemozyna, there are two words, and in English you say mnemozine. And why am I showing you this? There is a story in mythology of how Zeus met the goddess of memory, and he fell crazy in love with her, and they had a very powerful and emotional affair, romance, that lasted 7 days and 7 nights. And after this extremely emotional and powerful romance or affair, the goddess of memory brought to the world 7 muses. It's a very, very beautiful story. I like this story very much, not because of love affair that lasted 7 days and 7 nights, but because it shows how creativity, art, music, and something that is powerful, which is order, which is structure, and that's Zeus, are connected with our memory. This system of orderly structure, Zeus, 7 muses, creativity, and their mother, memory, they are very, very strictly related with each other. And that's this story. I love to call it, it's a perfect classroom love story, because it shows you that if you want your students to remember better, you should introduce and you should make this choice of introducing things that are creative. So elements of music, elements of theater, a lot of color, artistic aspects, bringing in pictures, bringing in art as prompts for discussion, photography, you name it. So elements of creativity, elements of art in a very well-structured lesson. So a lesson that is not a mess, a lesson that has a structure, and the structure is repetitive. So the structure is something that your students know and remember. And this combination of creativity, colors, music, photo, picture, theater, elements of that, put in a very strict structure of a lesson. And by structure of a lesson, I mean a decision that you make as a teacher. My lesson will look this way. It will always start with this. Then we will have that. Then we will prepare this. And it will always finish like that. So a structure that your students know very much. So something that gives them the feeling of security as well. They know what to expect. Very, very powerful tool. And you add elements of art, then the memory of your students has a better chance of developing and of being more and more effective. Structure, creativity, memory. Why is it so effective? Because it brings the mixture of the left and the right hemisphere in the brain. You have got creativity, memory, and structure. These are three aspects that are very much interconnected in the left and in the right hemisphere of the brain, and this is why it is so so powerful. So now the question to you is, when you think about your lessons, question number one: how much structure is there? Always a structure that is repetitive. Let me remind this. Let me remind you once again. Repetitive structure, so students know very well that your lessons are based on something that is predictable. And sometimes teachers will say, well, I don't want my lessons to be predictable because that will be boring. Not necessarily. Predictable structure means that students feel safe. They feel that this class, this system is their system. They have been there. They have experienced it. They know what to expect. It's their class. Very, very important element. Rituals in that structure. So that's the question number one that you can ask yourselves. And question number two that you can ask yourselves is, how much creativity am I for, or how much creativity am I allowing for in that structure? So how much aspects related to the 7 muses that I mentioned are there in my lessons? Okay, and now I would like you to remind me, what was that? What do you remember? What is my favorite outdoor activity? Think about it for a moment. I will wait for your answers. And if you you may want to write something in the comment, or you were just thinking this is probably outdoor cycling. Now, if you think about how is it possible that you or how what mechanism functioned here so that you remembered, there is a couple of mechanisms or mnemotechniques that I used so that I gave you a chance to remember better. And maybe you already have suspicion of what kind of mnemotechniques I used, why you remembered better, One of them was I used a photo. And of course, I showed you 3 photos only. And I'm sure that you remember, I don't even need to ask that question, but I'm sure that you remember all these 3 photos quite well. We will check this anyway later on. So I used a photo, colorful photo. I did it at the very beginning of our session. So this is number 2. And number 3, I made it very personal. So by making these 3 points, I'm 100% sure that if I met any of you in about 6 months' time, and I asked you, oh, so you have been to my webinar on memory, wonderful. Do you remember the first photo of my favorite outdoor activity? I'm quite sure that you would know you like cycling. So photo, colors, that's connected. The fact that I showed it at the very beginning of the of our session, of our webinar, and the third thing, emotional, personal connection with that content. Think about that, and again, try to think about your lessons. Try to think about the content of the next lesson that you are going to teach. Is there space for you to use real photos, real life photos? I have nothing against flashcards and preparing flashcards, or the ones that you get as a set from the publisher. Very often it happens. But I have a feeling that flashcards which are prepared by you with real life photos, not drawings, and the photos, for example, of you holding an apple rather than just an apple, are more memorable than the flashcards that the publisher has prepared for you. And again, I have nothing against them. You can use them interchangeably, but the real life pictures are very, very, very memorable. And also one more piece of advice, using photos that were taken by your students is also extremely memorable. So knowing that you will need photos of specific type of vocabulary, you can ask your students as an element of their homework, take a photo of apples from your home, take a photo of chairs that you have got at home, take a photo of lamps, take a photo of anything that you need to teach them, and later on use these pictures as some visual aid, and this will make these words much more memorable. Okay, now we're going to have an experiment. I will need you to have a sheet of paper and something to write with. So a notebook and a pen right now. And this is what is ahead of us. We will be looking at a set of words for exactly 1 minute. And I will time this using my wristwatch. And after 1 minute, I will hide these words and I will ask you to write down as much as you remember. And then we will check if this experiment worked for you or not. All right, so ready? I hope that you have got a sheet of paper. Please take it and something to write with. I'm showing you, but rule, don't write anything until I say write. Right now, you only look and try to remember the words. Please don't cheat. 1 minute. Okay, 10 seconds. All right. Okay. So 1 minute's gone. Now I'm giving you again 1 minute to write down the words that you remember. Okay? 1 minute for you to take a note. Ten seconds. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you these words again, and I will ask you some questions, and then we will draw conclusions for your lessons. So let's take a look. The question number 1 is, how many of you in your notes right now have got at least one word from the first 5? And the first 5 is sun, pen, for, and see. At least one of these words. Okay, now question number 2. How many of you have got one of the words, at least one of the last 5 words from the list? Some, etiquette, mascara, street, kidneys. Okay, now the third question is, how many of you have got at least, sorry, not at least, have got the word see on your list? S-E-E, see on the list. All right. And the last question, how many of you have got expression Queen Elizabeth on your list? Okay, so you can be, I'm going to carry on, and the comments will be sent to you by our wonderful elf. And now, because I asked you and you confirmed the beginning, the first 5 words, the last 5 words, the word see and expression Queen Elizabeth, what I would like to ask you is whether you have some conclusions or suspicions as why these particular words were, first of all, interesting for me, and second of all, quite effective, as we can see. So your memory was quite effective. I asked you about these particular words and in that particular order because there is something that in studies on memory and effective memory, there is something called the von Restorff effect. And the von Restorff effect means that we remember better. And this experiment that I showed you, it always confirms this, this effect. We remember better things that come first. We remember better things that come last. We remember better things that repeat. That's really no rocket science. All teachers know that, right? That we need to repeat a lot of times. And we remember better what stands out. So something that looks different than other things around. So that's why I asked you about the first 5 words, the last 5 words, at least one of from those 5. I asked you about the word see, and I asked you about expression, the expression Queen Elizabeth, because it stood out. Now, when you look at these rules, so something that comes first, something that comes last, repetition, and standing out character, that very, very clearly shows you how you should structure the lesson and how you should think, and in what way, what order you should think about those elements of the lesson that you want your students to remember more. So we need to, I mean, there is an absolute immediate application of the von Restorff effect on your lesson. So you need to think about a lesson. If you want your students to remember better, you need to make them, you need to show them, present to them, plan for them those things that you want to remember better at the beginning of the lesson, at the end of the lesson. It should be repeated many times, and I don't mean just within the lesson, but within the process itself. And this language, aspects of language, grammar, vocabulary, and so on, they need to be presented in a way that stands out. So not in a way that you have presented last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, but in a different way. And of course, here, the imagination of the teacher, training, going to training that shows a lot of different new ways of showing vocabulary and so on. So all of these elements are extremely important, but you need to, first of all, have this under control. Having automatically this thought in my head, I'm planning a lesson. What have I planned at the beginning? What have I planned at the end? Are these two things correlated? Are these two things connected? The beginning of the lesson needs to be connected with the end somehow. So at the very end, we're asking students to do something, to complete an exercise, to have a dialogue, to have a little theatrical scene, dramatical exercise, and so on, related to something that was at the very beginning, to make these brackets work together in a standing out way. So the von Restorff effect is a perfect example of a structure of a lesson that makes sense. Now, from the memory point of view. Okay, now I would like to show you a next activity, and this is an activity which is related to associations, and associations have been proven to be an extremely effective way of remembering something. Now, if you look at the picture, in the picture you see a beach chair, which was actually a gift for my sister for her birthday. Now, if I would like you to remember the word or beach chair or the expression beach chair, I would ask you to give me 3 words that you associate with this word or with this expression. And these words could be, for example, sun, summer, and relax. The most important thing is that these words should come from you, not from me. So this is only a model, only an instruction. And if I would like my students to remember that word more, I would show them a picture and I would tell them, please give me 3 associations, or write down in your notebook 3 things, 3 words that you associate with the word beach chair. And their words could be sun, summer, and relax, or something completely different. It's very important that these associations are theirs and not yours. So, for example, and later on, I could ask them, okay, for example, at the end of the lesson, I could say, all right, so we had such 3 associations: sun, summer, and relax. What was the word that you associated these words with? And it comes from the students that these words would be related with the word beach chair. Now, if this system works very well if you have these words that or expressions that you find extremely difficult to remember, there are these words. I remember when I was learning English some years ago, I could not remember the meaning of the word mundane. I remember until today that I was so frustrated every time I saw the word mundane, and I said, I know that I've heard it. What did it mean? And so this system of associations, it helps quite well with situations like that. I'm sure that quite many students of yours have got problems with some words that are just impossible to learn and to remember. So now we will do this exercise. Again, we need a sheet of paper. You have got the word bridge. Please write down 3 associations with the word bridge in your, but don't write bridge. Just write down 3 associations in your notebook. My associations are river, car, transportation, but yours might be different, of course. Now we have got the picture of, you may know it or not know it. It's a painting, portrait of Christopher Columbus. So 3 associations with Christopher Columbus. Okay, so my 3 associations are discovery, America, and India. Yours, I'm sure, could be different. And the third word, third picture, typewriter or typewriting machine. Mm-hmm. 3 associations. My associations are author, book, mistake. Okay, so now the idea with this exercise is that after some time, for example, 10 minutes, you ask your students to look at the associations, not the words. The idea is you don't write the words, so not bridge, not Christopher Columbus, not typewriting machine, but only the associations. And you ask them, okay, so let's look at the associations. What was that word? What was this word? What was this word? What was this word? And you, by making your teaching choice, because you have planned it, you give them a better chance to remember. So, for example, we had the gift for my sister in the photo, and there was the word summer, relax, and beach, I think. I can't remember what the third word was right now. And you remember, I'm sure, that the picture of this gift was, and you can write it right now in the and you can write it right down in the comments. Okay, so now do you remember what this meant about me? What is the story? Now, if I ask you that story, what the story is, I can also ask you more details than just this the immediate meaning of that picture. I told you a personal story describing this, and now tell me, what is the name of my son with whom I do that? And the second question to you, those of you who were present at the very beginning of our session, is this boy that I just mentioned my younger or my older son? I have 2 sons. Which one do I mean, the younger or the older? And now, if you see, again, I'm showing this for the second time. I'm doing this revision for the second time. At the very beginning, so you know now, I'm using the effect of Hedwig von Restorff, the von Restorff effect. I showed you at the very beginning something that is important for me. It is personal, but I showed it at the beginning. And I showed you a story. I told you a story, and I'm sure that you remember more from the story than just what the recipe book means in my life. And now I'm repeating this, and I can also ask you a question. So this picture was the second picture from the order of three that I showed you. What was in the first one? What was in the third one? What is my favorite part or region of Poland? And what is my favorite outdoor activity that I do in that region? And I am 100% sure that you remember, because it was at the beginning of our session, because it used one of the 7 muses. This is artistic, and there were emotions which are extremely important for the process of memorization. Now, what the next thing that I want you to remember and that I want to tell you about is the phenomenon called, or maybe a model, maybe a better word than phenomenon, which is called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And there was a scholar by the name of Ebbinghaus, who was doing research on the speed of our forgetting and the mechanisms which may speed up the forgetting or slow it down or impede our forgetting. And again, something that for teachers is an extremely important piece of knowledge. And Ebbinghaus did a lot of research, a lot of experiments, and he came up with conclusions, which in my opinion are not going to be a super surprise for teachers, but I have a feeling that we need to tell our students about it very, very regularly and very much. Now, as you see, Ebbinghaus came up with these rules on how quickly we forget if we do not review and repeat. Now, how to understand this graph? The percentage X, it shows you how much we remember. So when we first learn something, we remember 100%. But as you can see, with time lapse and no repetition, no revision, we forget very, very, very much and very quickly. And the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are days on which we need to repeat the knowledge. There's something new, the vocabulary, the grammar, the theories, whatnot, in order to remember more. So as you see, if your students review material on the first day, just after they learn something, the memory jumps again to 100%, and the memory lapse is slower and not as extreme as it would be with no revision at all. The second revision that is suggested here in this graph is on the 3rd day, then the next one on the 6th day, and so on. And of course, I would not take this graph literally. I mean, in the sense that it doesn't have to be the 2nd day, 6th day, and then the 12th day. This graph shows you that we need to remember, we need to review, and recycle the language very, very, very regularly. And now what I see, I observe quite a lot of lessons. What I see especially in schools that have very intensive curriculum, we press for new things, novelties, something new. And this is important. Of course, we need to progress. So this progress always will mean something new, but we do not press enough for revision. Our revision very regularly takes the first 3 minutes of the lesson and then goodbye. You need to include in the structure of your lesson 3 moments, 4 moments activities, exercises that will give your students a chance to remember better. And generally speaking, the idea of less is more will be an extremely valuable, in terms of something new, extremely valuable rule that will hopefully help your students to remember more effectively. We will remember more effectively things in our lessons that came in small numbers. So again, there are experiments on those numbers. In the 60s, the scholar by the name of Miller came up with numbers, number 7. There was even a name for that, the Miller's magic number 7. So 7 plus minus 2 new items during a unit of time. Now, unfortunately, because of the internet, the speed of our life and the content that reaches us, which is small bites of everything, unfortunately, it has, when Miller's research was repeated at the beginning of the 21st century, the amount of how much we need to introduce in order to make it memorable dropped to around 4. So by that, I want to say that you really need to choose wisely. And that's why in the title of today's webinar, it was about the teacher choices. You need to choose very wisely which of these limited number of words, expressions, chunks of language you will introduce, and you will review, repeat, and so on, in order to make to help your students remember better. There needs to be probably no more than 7 plus minus to still keep to the Miller 7, knowing that your students need to remember more and more, but still it has to come in a limited number. So according to Ebbinghaus, and coming back to Ebbinghaus, the forgetting curve, your students will remember better if they repeat after the first 10 minutes, after they've learned something. So there is something new, and almost right after that novelty has appeared, you need to repeat it. Then after 24 hours, for example, in the homework section, then after 7 days, after 30 days, this revision needs to be cyclical. Things cannot happen once and with our belief and trust that they will stay in those heads forever. And it is your responsibility as a teacher, of course, students' responsibility to review too, but teachers' responsibility to plan this revision very, very much. Okay, now I would like you to tell me who that woman was, if you remember. She was a goddess of something. I am quite sure that you remember, because it was a love story. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because research has shown that if something is put in a romantic context, so for example, in the love story, we remember it better. So I'm sure that you remember who that woman was. I'm sure that you remember who she had a love affair with. And I'm sure you remember how many days that emotional love affair lasted. And I am quite sure you remember who the children were. And again, this was a story with pictures. This was a story with colors. And this was a story of emotion related to this love affair. And I'm quite sure that you remember quite well. So we remember better. And these rules that I'm showing you right now, they are extremely important and transferable, almost one-on-one, to the lessons that you will be running with your students. We remember things which are in pictures. And ideally, if these pictures are in motion, and by motion, I mean you show it here, then you show it somewhere else, then you show this picture standing on the left of your students, then you show the same picture standing at their back, and you ask them to move. If this picture is in motion, they will remember it better. If the picture is colorful, they will remember it better. If this picture has details and you talk about these details, just as I told you the story of my cooking with my son, and then I asked you, what is the name of my son, and is he a younger son or older son? So I gave you details, and you remembered that details, and you remembered that story. If the picture is in exaggeration or exaggerated, so for example, you want to show someone who is skinny and he is extremely skinny, or if you want someone who has been overdoing something and you really make this into an exaggerated picture, we remember exaggeration much better. We remember things which are done when we have good fun, so these positive emotions related to dopamine in our brain and lack of cortisol, which is responsible for stress, and stress limits memory very much. I'm sorry. And we remember things which involved all our senses. And last but not least, we remember stories, vocabulary, which is related to love. Love is a mnemotechnique, which is very, very strong in our strong factor in our memory. Okay, listen, I gave you quite a lot of different techniques. I hope that you remember what my favorite outdoor activity is, and my favorite part of Poland, which is and what I do there and what I do with my son. I hope that you remember what words you associated with bridge, with Christopher Columbus, with typewriting machine. I hope that you remember at least one of the 5 words from the list and one of the last 5 words from the list. And I hope that you remember what the expression that stood out means. So in general, I hope that you remember the von Restorff effect. Things that we remember are best when they come at the beginning. At the end, they stand out and they are regularly repeated. These things are lesson hacks and good lesson practice, good teaching practice. When you think about every single lesson, practically every single lesson, you may have a dilemma. What should I do so that my students remember more and remember better? And these techniques that I have shown you today, they show you how to deal with these dilemmas. But what I would like to tell you is that sometimes you have different dilemmas, and I wrote a book about dilemmas, and I would like to show you this book right now. This is the book in English, and if you speak Polish, you might know that this book has also a version in Polish. In Polish, it's called Metodyczne SOS, and in English, this book, the content of it is 100% the same. It's called 100 Classroom Dilemmas. It's a very, very practical book for teachers, and I will, if you give me a moment, I will show you that book. On the screen, you've got the email address, the web page address that you can you can take a look at. So it's Luiza Wójtowicz-Waga, so my name.com/100 /classroom/dilemmas. Let me put it here on the screen. And this book has got 100 chapters, and it talks about really 100 classroom dilemmas. Let me show you what you can expect from it, and then I will tell you a little bit more about how you can, if you would like to get it, how to get it. So this is me. It's an ebook. That's the most important thing, that you don't need to wait for it to come to your email, to your mailboxes, because it will be with you automatically. It has got 100 chapters, and all the chapters come with questions that teachers ask me in training and teachers ask me in observed lessons. And every single chapter looks in this way, that there is a teacher dilemma, there is my theoretical explanation, practical ideas, and there is always a section called "Watch out for these teaching traps." And at the very end, there is always a task. So you have 100 chapters, 100 dilemmas, and 100 tasks to complete. So these are the main chapters. And here, if you scroll down, you will see all 100 chapters in that book. I can tell you that this book in Poland has already been in sale for about a month and a half. And the feedback that I receive is absolutely stunning. It's a wonderful, wonderful feedback. Everyone says that this is such practical meat that something like that was absolutely very, very, very important for them. So now let me show you something. As you know, probably, I hope that you know, here in EduNation, we always have that rule that if people come to a webinar live, they get something from us. So as you saw, that the price of that book is, the ebook is in euro, if you pay euro, 39 PLN, and in zlotys, it is 159 PLN, but not today, not for you. If you buy this book today until midnight, then you pay 29 euro if you pay in euro, and 129 PLN if you buy in PLN. So you go on luizawójtowicz-waga.com/100/classroom/dilemmas, and you get a nice discount only until midnight today. So I hope to see you showing me how do you work with that course book, with that ebook. It's a wonderful manual for all language teachers, English teachers, with answers to questions that I remember when I was a teacher some years ago. I would like to have someone answer them for me, and the tasks, and very, very, very practical tasks. Okay. Thank you very much for today. I hope that the webinar was practical and instructional for you. And I hope to see you soon. So thank you very much for attending today. And you can take a look at edunation.global, the next titles of the next webinars that you've got. Thank you very much. Remember about the discount until midnight. We'll show you the webpage again. And thank you very much, and see you very, very, very soon.